Hey, it's Webs here, and it's time to bamboozle our way into victory with Secret Rogue. So continuing with the theme of cards I want to visit before they rotate out is the secret package for Rogue, especially the card of Shadowjeweler Hanar, which is a card that's going to be rotating out soon, and there is a bunch of other secrets that are also rotating out. I think actually most of the secrets for Rogue are rotating out, which is kind of sad to say, but this variant of Secret Rogue does have a little bit of a twist with Drek'thar. You're not actually losing out much by using Drek'thar in this deck, so it's a great card to actually consider, though with Shadow Step there is something that I need to warn you of. For example, if you use your hero power from your hero card to discount Drek'thar, you actually turn off Drek'thar if he is reduced in cost by 2. Same thing can be done with Shadow Step, which is the reason why you don't want to use Shadow Step with Drek'thar. But we still are running the Shadow Steps in the deck to bounce back either the Blackjack Stunners, as seen in the clip behind us, or the Shadowjeweler Hanar, as those are honestly the only two bad targets in this entire deck for Drek'thar, depending on how late in the game you actually put him down, and it's an easy way to actually get some removal back into your hand if you need to use the Blackjack Stunners for a big taunt minion or something else. And while most people wouldn't want to actually run Bamboozle in a deck where you're running Hanar, you can actually use the taunt minions in this deck to serve as a way to protect your Hanar so they don't actually trigger Bamboozle on them. It's honestly the reason why I included a bunch of taunt minions in the deck. Overall, the idea of the deck is just to overwhelm your opponent with a bunch of secrets or through your big minions that you actually get off of Drek'thar. As it turns out, having a bunch of secrets can actually be very devastating, especially when your opponent doesn't know necessarily what secrets that you're actually running. For the Mulligan guide of this deck, if you see Drek'thar, always keep him. That's the same case for any Drek'thar deck you're actually ever playing, just because of the fact that it allows you to have big swing turns. Though if you do have Shadow Step also in your opening hand, that might be worth actually keeping if you do have a Drek'thar, just because of the fact then you can bounce back the awkward Blackjack Stunners or the Shadowjeweler Hanars. Normally, Hanar is a pretty good card to keep in your opening hand. For a multitude of reasons, he's a great card to actually just slam down early, even though I get a bit greedy with him. And the fact that if you have him in your opening hand, then Drek'thar can't actually pull him out of the deck. But you have to know a good balance between what cards to keep in your opening hand and what cards not to, because you don't want to keep a bunch of cards you want later in the game in your opening hand. And if I had to choose between the two of which one to keep, Drek'thar would always be it. Iron Deep Trogg is a great card to keep in a matchup such as Libram Paladin, just because they're not going to be able to deal with this easily at all, and is kind of a weird inclusion in the deck, but I really just don't like playing against Libram, and it's a great one-cost card to have on turn 1, and your opponent's most likely, unless they're mage, not going to have an easy way to deal with it on turn 1. Other cards worth keeping in the opening hand are cards like Secret Passage, so you can have this on turn 4 or 5, so you can actually get a Drek'thar out of the deck, just because of the fact that if you search through a bunch of your deck, you're most likely going to actually run into Drek'thar, and that's the reason why it's included. SI Extortion is actually really good, especially if it's a minion based matchup, and if I had to choose between this and Trogg in a minion based matchup, I would always go with the SI Extortion, just because you can remove their minions early on. For 2-cost cards, it really depends on the matchup. If you have a spell based matchup, Dirty Tricks is always great to keep in your open hand, but for the most part I would always choose Plagiarism over Dirty Tricks, just because of the fact this could generate you a bunch more cards than just drawing you 2 out of your deck. Reconnaissance is always great, just because of the fact this will allow you to have a big minion for really cheap, and your way to actually cheat out big minions in this deck that you can't run because you're running Drek'thar. And finally, Swindle is probably the other card that I would consider keeping in my opening hand, just because this allows you to search through your deck for either your key spells or your minions that you actually need. With that being said, let's go find some games. Alright, time for a game against Warrior. Okay, so this isn't a terrible starting out hand. Don't really want to keep anything. The stunner might have been nice, but given the fact that it's probably pirate quest line, that stunner isn't going to be that useful, and we got the stunner back. So now this looks a little bit better. Not as good as it could be, but still halfway decent. Drek'thar as a top deck is really good though. Oh shit, it isn't actually questline. That's a shock. I'm hoping more control warrior actually pops up now. We're going to keep the jailer because the jailer seems like a really funny idea here, especially if they're control, because we can actually bounce back the jailer quite a few times with Shadow Step. Okay, so we ate a troublemaker, which is great. We're going to bounce him back just because of the fact that they can't get their minion back if we do. The funny thing is we can actually use the stunners as a way to keep bouncing back the jailer if we really feel like it. Okay, so they are just a nice old-fashioned control warrior. We're going to put down Drek'thar. Now, I would have liked to have the Viper here, just because of the fact that we'd be able to get rid of the shield instantly, but I guess it isn't really necessary, especially if it isn't questline. Okay, so they're going to use Brawl. I'm hoping kind of for the Viper to survive, and it doesn't. It's going to be the weakest minion, which is fine. We're going to coin out, draw 2, play Plagiarize, use our hero power, and then attack. Okay, so they do kill our minion, which is fine. Our hand actually doesn't look terrible, just because of the fact we do have a way for Hanar to actually get us quite a few secrets. So we're only going to get Blade Storm here and a Frozen Bulwark, which isn't the best, but... Oh right, they just used their hero power, not Frozen this turn. We're going to shuffle that back into the deck, getting our second stunner. Okay, there's the Shadow Step. We're going to Shadow Step it back. Well, that's a shock. I did not expect them to not actually have any minions in their hand, but we're just going to bounce it back just because why not? That's how we're going to win this game. Keep bouncing it back over and over. Okay, interesting. So we can bounce that back with the Zapper if we really feel like it. Actually, that's probably the correct play to actually do. Going to play down Bamboozle. Then bounce it back, then use the jailer to eat it, hopefully. Well, that's kind of frustrating that they managed to actually get another minion in their hand during the turn that we actually used it before, but oh well. We did bounce back the jailer with the second sap. I guess it's a stunner, not a sapper. Funny thing is, Bamboozle will actually make it just eat a minion. We're going to see how many secrets we can actually generate here. Gonna get Noble Sacrifice. Explosive Trap should have went for the ambush. And then Oh My Yaw will be a great final secret. Or I guess we'll go with Mirror Image. Okay, so they're going to use Rancor. That gives us 2 cards, which is fine. They're going to kill Hanar, which sucks, but oh well. They're going to get Noble Sacrificed and then Explosive Trap. And then Bamboozle, which is actually kind of funny in this scenario. But they're going to instantly kill it, which is kind of sad. That's actually another card that I kind of want to use before it rotates out. Rattling is a pretty interesting card. I don't know how useful he is, but I really should have played down the jailer here. We're going to play down Mirror Image. Bamboozle would have actually not been terrible, but oh well. I really kind of hope to eat a Rattlegore. I'm assuming they're still playing Rattlegore in that deck, so they're going to play the Grunt. We're going to get our own Grunt, then buff up our Hospiter. It's such an odd word to say, but it is what it is, I guess. We're going to kill our Taunt, then go face. Oh, there's the second one. We're going to put down another Taunt, and then keep going face. And we do have the hero power to go face again. The interesting thing here though is there's a lot of things they could actually do that could screw us over. It just depends on what their top decks are going to be. Okay, a Athletic Studies, which is fine. Oh no, that isn't fine, especially if they actually do have a last minion in hand. Could be worse though. It could be Samuro. Shield Slam, interesting. Then our Bamboozle triggers. Nice thing is it actually makes our Hospiters big enough for it to survive. Though it did drag that out, which kind of sucks. Drags out a Colossus. Now, it really just depends on how we want to do this. Because we can attack with the 6-2 into that and then go face. But the issue then is how are we going to deal with the second elemental? We can just sacrifice it, keep the jailer just in case. The main issue here though is if they do top deck a minion, they're going to instantly play it, which isn't going to be good for us. We're going to see what we get here. Fresh is actually pretty good. We don't have enough mana to play him though. Then we can trade that in just to get another card. Plagiarism is actually really good, especially if we get to play it before they get to a Rattling or any other really high impactful minion. Okay, so there's the Rattling. Alright, so the nice thing about Plagiarism is we can actually scabs here and then use it instantly, and if they're dumb enough, we can actually get whatever minion that they want to actually put down here. We were 1 mana off from actually being able to eat it again, so. And they do put it down, which is great news for us. So we're going to instantly get it here. We're going to burn a card, I think. Oh no. Okay, so we're going to play the Rattling just to have it down. Or we're going to play the Jailer first, I guess, which eats nothing. We're going to put down Crash, taunt minion, and then just go face. The issue here is we don't really have an easy way to deal with Rattling in our deck ourselves, which means we just kind of have to race for face. But given the amount of damage we have on board, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. They're going to put armor or heavy plate down and a grunt, which could be a little bit worrisome if we're rushing for face. Well, we can just put Rattling down and then keep going face. Then put down a Trog just for the hell of it, I guess. Okay, they're gonna kill the Jailer, but it doesn't actually do anything because it doesn't have any minions in it. We're gonna kill the 1/2 with the Grunt. I would have honestly attacked into something bigger with the Grunt. Oh, I guess they're going to generate a minion here, so it is fine. Troublemaker is not enough for them to actually win. We have enough armor and HP that we just win the game next turn by attacking with the Rattling. Alright, time for a game against Druid. We're going to mulligan away Dirty Tricks. Getting Plagiarism actually is a pretty good other card, especially over what we had before. Now, I've realized I keep saying Plagiarism when it's Plagiarize. Doesn't really matter. They're basically the same word anyways. Well, I'm going to put down the Trog just because of the fact that A, it's Druid, so it's most likely, unless it's aggro, not able to actually deal with the Trog early on. Pass the turn back. We're just going to put down Bamboozle, which might be a little bit of a mistake here, but it should be fine. We're going to get a second Trog. Oh, Vander. I actually didn't really expect to see Vander here. Well, I think Plagiarize might actually be the play here, just because I'm assuming next turn, or the turn after, they're going to actually play up Overgrowth. Okay, so they do attack into one of the Trogs, which is pretty good for us. And we get a taunt with Lifesteal. Okay, now we should probably put down the Plagiarize, just because of the fact that they will probably have an Overgrowth, and I'd rather not be behind on mana. Gonna attack into the Vander just to finish it off. Use our hero power, heal a bit from our minion. And it is Overgrowth, which is great for us. Gives us Overgrowth so we don't fall behind, which can actually be very impactful for this matchup, just because of the fact that Hanar is in our hand. Do heal up to full here. Gonna shuffle the Viper away. Don't really need it. Shadow Step's pretty cool, but isn't really needed yet. Well, that is a minion that I didn't expect. It's a really cool minion to actually think about. I just haven't seen anyone actually play it that often. Okay, Owl. So I think next turn we're going to use Hanar to get a bunch of secrets out, but we're also going to bounce him back. Actually, we could also use Scabs here too, to bounce their minions back. And then just go face. Because they would need a 1 HP minion to kill our 4/2s. Resizing Pouch is not something I want to see right now. Interesting to see it in a deck that doesn't have Guff as its highest card. Madness Bomber, okay. I think that might actually lose them the game. It's a pretty funny card, but okay, so we do have Hanar plus a stunner to actually bounce back one of their minions so we can actually go face. We're going to discount Hanar, use Dirty Tricks, grab the freezing trap because we're dealing with a bunch of big minions. Going to grab Plagiarize because why not? It's the best secret in the game. Grab Noble Sacrifice, and then Shadow Clone. But then we're going to bounce back the 6/6, and then we're probably going to bounce back at least the Hanar here, or maybe just the Sapper so we can bounce back the 9/8 so we don't have to deal with it. I guess we are going for the Hanar pass in our hand. The thing with recording all these games in mass is sometimes I forget what I actually do. Okay, so that's going to trigger Dirty Tricks, which gets us the Gospiter a little bit too late, but it is what it is. There's the Owl, which will trigger the freezing trap, which is kind of sad because they'll be able to play it instantly back if they really feel like it. You get the Noble Sacrifice out. And the funny thing about the Owl is because we do have a shit ton of spells in the deck, it should be 0 cost for us too when we get it off of Plagiarize. Okay, Cenarian Ward, that's pretty good. That is not a minion that I wanted to see right now, but at least we'll get Cenarian Ward next turn, I guess. Okay, so we get a bunch of cards. Actually, all these cards are useful. Burning Reconnaissance is kind of sad, but it is what it is. We're going to kill the Elk here. We're going to put down the Hanar again and go through this process once again. Going to grab Plagiarize again, because why not? Ice Barrier is a good card, but Ice Trap is probably better here. Then we can finish this off with either an Ambush or a Noble Sacrifice. I'm going to coin out the Ambush, and then we get a Reckoning for next turn. You can put down the 0 cost minion, and then bounce back either the 6/6 or the 9/8. Going to grab the Trog, or Tonk, I mean. Bounce back the 9/8 just because it could actually just straight up kill them next turn. Having the 6/6 in hand is something they can instantly play back if it gets bounced back, so I don't want to do that. Okay, Mirror Image. I was also kind of hoping they put down the 9/8 because of Mirror Image. Getting the Ambush, which is pretty nice to actually have, but they can instantly kill it with a Lunar Eclipse, I think it is. Okay, they're going to Lightning Bloom, which triggers Ice Trap, which is probably the worst target that they could actually hit with the Ice Trap, but oh well. They're actually playing Maddest Bomber. Okay. I think that loses the game here, probably. We're going to kill the Poison, which is fine. We're going to get everything they just played. We're going to go face. We're going to use the Cenarian Ward, which gets us a 8/8, which is actually pretty nice here. We're going to get the Reckoning down, and then we're going to put down the Gospiter, just because we can. And then pass the turn back. I really kind of want to finish this game with a Maddest Bomber, just because it would be really funny to do such a thing. I also wonder how long it's going to take them for make a bomber that is a legendary, since we've seen a rare and an epic at this point, and a common too. Okay, so they're going to kill the 8/8, which gets us a big taunt minion, which is great. There's only a few cards that could actually save them here, which would be something like a completed Cthulhu or a Yogg. Both could actually do some work. I guess Yishari could actually do some work too, but they don't have enough mana for it. Ah, that can actually not do what they needed. If the turn passes back to us, I am putting down Bomber and winning that way. And they give up. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. Overall, the deck did incredibly well when it came to performance on ladder. It's a deck that doesn't really shock me that it was doing so well, just because of the fact that I always believed that Secret Rogue is a competitive deck. It's just fell out of favor for right now because of all the OTK Rogue decks that are in standard right now. Though with those cards nerfed, I think a deck like this is probably going to rise through the ranks, at least for the last few months, especially if we get some other type of secret support in the mini set. Drek'thar is also a really interesting card for a deck like this, just because it makes Gospiters actually a way better card than normal, and for the fact that it allows you to set up a secret that most people aren't actually using in the form of Bamboozle, as this allows you to get bigger minions by cheating out the Drek'thar condition. Though by using it, you're cutting out most of the Battlecry minions out of the deck that you might want to normally run in a rogue deck, though I don't think that actually hurts this deck that much. And honestly speaking, this is a deck that I could easily recommend. Most people aren't going to expect secret rogue right now, just given the fact that most rogue decks are OTK decks, so people will play a lot differently against this deck than they actually should, and it is a really hard deck to actually predict. There were some long games that I had with this deck where they was between like 16 to 19 minutes, which were insane games, but I didn't include them into the video because they take up the entire video. So be warned on that front. But other than that, it's a really fun deck to actually play. And if you've been wanting to use Shadowjeweler Hanar before he rotates out, it's a perfect deck. Hanar is such an underused card for how powerful he actually is. I'm shocked that more people don't actually use him, even in a deck that doesn't run a bunch of secrets. You only really need Plagiarism and maybe one other type of secret in a deck to make him actually useful. That all being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye bye.